All right, let me ask you something. If home prices were really going to come down, we'd probably see it by now, right? We've had higher mortgage rates. Yeah, I get that. Inventory, it's improved a little bit in the recent past. Buyers are not bidding as aggressively as they used to, maybe not 2 or 3 years ago. So it makes sense. Some people are thinking, oh, this must be the time that prices are coming down. Now listen, once you step back from kind of all the noise that you're hearing out there in the media, focus on the numbers. The situation really isn't quite as simple as maybe it seems like on the surface. Yeah, the market has shifted, okay? Things are kind of cooled down a little bit from the way they used to be back in that frenzy, like post-COVID. So today, let's really take a look at what the numbers are actually saying and really what that means for you if you are buying or selling in 2026. No drama. This is not fear-based. Let's just kind of base this on data and perspective. All right, key point number 1, what the national data shows. Let's start with what it's actually telling us. The Federal Housing Finance Agency, go figure, one of those nice government acronyms, FHFA. Okay, they release a quarterly house price index that tracks home values across the country. In its most recent report, that's Q1 2026, prices are still up compared to last year. This is important. The growth rate is slower, but that does not mean it has decreased. So home prices have not actually gone down. All right, so let's look at Zillow, kind of the big elephant in the room, right? Everybody looks at Zillow. Zillow's home value index also shows that U.S. home values, they're slightly higher than they were last year. So now we've got 2 sources saying that home prices are higher. Again, we're talking about modest growth. I get it. Okay. Not dramatic, not overheated, but definitely not negative either. Okay. Then let's, for example, take a look at Redfin. Their 2026 forecast, Redfin is projecting, guess what? About a 1% growth in prices as well. Okay. So depending on where you are, we're seeing data from 1% to 4%, but at the low end, 1%, that's still an increase. So we're certainly not looking at a crash. That's very different than what it was in 2021 and certainly extremely different than it was in 2008. So when you step back, you look at the broad picture. The pattern is consistent. Okay, growth has cooled a little bit, right? Things are kind of more balanced, but prices are not falling nationally. Key point number 2. Higher mortgage rates have cooled down, yes. But you know what they also did? They locked a lot of people that purchased homes already in the past into lower mortgage rates. Okay, so for them, even if they wanted to move, boy, that's a tough decision to make. They're going from 3% to 6 or 7%, right? But supply never surged the way some people expected. So all those people we thought might move, maybe they wanted to upgrade, downgrade, whatever they needed to do because of a change in life, they're not doing. They're hanging on to those great mortgages. So in many markets, we're really kind of dealing with tight inventory still. Not extreme shortages like we had previously, just not oversupply either. So the balance is really what's holding prices steady or a slight increase. All right, here we go. Key point number 3, what could happen for the rest of 2026? Looking ahead, most forecasts, they kind of remain a little bit conservative, but steady. All right, so Redfin we talked about, 1% increase or so. Zillow also anticipating modest appreciation, depending 1 to 4%. FHFA data continues to show year-over-year gains. So when we've got these several independent reports, if you will, showing the same trend, that really does add credibility to those figures. But you know what? It doesn't mean every city is experiencing the exact same thing. Okay, so locally it could be a little bit different. Conditions can vary depending on inventory levels, available jobs, buyer demand, that kind of thing. But nationally, the data does not support kind of this broad overall housing downturn, okay? So what we're seeing is a normalization. The market has shifted from this rapid acceleration to a steadier pace. So that's pretty much good for everybody. And this healthier for just the economy, the housing economy in general. All right, key point number 4, what it means for buyers and sellers. So if you're waiting for a dramatic drop in home prices, data suggests, that may not be the most likely outcome. Buyers today, though, they do have some advantages, right? There's fewer bids being placed on homes. So this is not the craziness where, we were doing, no joke and no exaggeration, 27 offers on one home. So thank goodness. We don't have that at the moment. We've got more inventory choices if you're a buyer. And here's something super important, more negotiation on flexibility on maybe buyer paid closing costs. Okay, we're seeing that. Although we're not seeing home prices decline, we are seeing them increase, as we've said. But we are seeing a little bit more flexibility when it comes to negotiation. In other words, you may not see those lower prices, but you may see better terms. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, what does this mean for sellers? For sellers, it's no longer, listen, guys, you can't just name your own price, right? There's going to be 20 other homes on the market, and you want yours to stand out to a particular buyer. Okay, so you've got to get it in what I call showroom condition. We covered that on a different video, right? So get it ready to be sold so that when a buyer shows up, they want to actually make an offer on your particular home. So pricing strategy, presentation, preparation, we just mentioned, those all matter. Buyers really are comparing more carefully now. You can imagine, I just said, 20 homes on the market. They're going to actually see which one is the best value for me at this time. So they've got options, and it's important for you to know that as a seller. That means positioning is everything. You've got to be the number one on the block, because if you're number two, guess what? You don't get sold. So the sellers who win in this market are the ones who price realistically from the start. They present their home in the best light possible so that it stands out. And listen, guys, I know it's always nice to make more money than less money, but let's not get too greedy, right? We've seen prices increase, oh my goodness, 40%, 50%, sometimes more. So let's take advantage, lock in that equity and make that sale as opposed to just sit there and twiddle your thumbs. All right. So our home price is finally going to come down in 2026. Nationally, you know what? The data says no. We kind of went over some of those statistics earlier. What we are seeing is that stabilization, like we mentioned, the rapid ramp up in prices. Thank goodness that's probably over from a few years ago. So if you're wondering what that means for your home's value, your buying power, depending on which side of the coin you're on, let's take a closer look really at your specific market. You can reach out to me to schedule a one-on-one strategy call. We'll go over some details that are going to be more customized, and we'll build a plan that really makes sense for you for this year. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure you like this video, subscribe so you don't miss future market updates and practical real estate insights. I'm Mark Mahaffey with Mark Mahaffey and Associates, and I hope to converse with you soon.